I thought I would just show you how to test out this test file that I've prepared to make sure that your Lumion is able to handle what we're going to be working on in assignment 2. So I just downloaded and installed Lumion on my Dell XPS 15, which is like not really optimized for rendering. It's a pretty good computer. It's got enough juice and power for like Photoshop and stuff like that, but I ran a benchmark and these are the results that I got. So I have tons of system memory and that's fine, but like everything else is below the minimal standards. And I just wanted to show you, you don't need to really worry too much about that because I was still able to install the test file just fine and move around and place objects and do all that good stuff. So I just wanted to demo that for you. So I've prepared a test file. It's available for download on the Moreau board. And when you open up Lumion, I want you just to go to Create New and Plain Environment. And this is what we're looking at. So I am moving around by holding down on my right mouse button and just simply turning my mouse around to kind of take a look at where I am. I'm going to give you some more information about moving around in Lumion in a different video, but for the purposes of this test, all I want you to be concerned about is going over to this place arrow down here. You should already be on the imported models button by default. So let's just go to place, and then you're going to go to import new model. So let's go there. And you're going to navigate to where you've downloaded the test file and just click open. And it's going to bring up this box asking you where you'd like to save it. And if you just save it in the main folder, that's fine for now. Later, I'll talk to you about how you can organize your imported models into different categories, but for now, let's just leave it at the default. Okay, so here it is, it's showing up, and I'm just going to place it somewhere close to this little axis, and we can move it around and place it more accurately later. Now, as you see, I still have a model attached to my mouse, so as I move around my mouse, even though I'm not doing anything, there's still that model is still here. So if I clicked again, I would end up placing two models. So instead of clicking again, I just want you to go down and then click on this selection button. And now you can select the model that you've just placed. So I'm going to just put this to 0, 0, 0 by filling in these numbers here. And then I'm going to move it vertically because it's kind of intersecting with the ground plane a little bit. So I'll just move it off the ground like that. And then I'm just going to go over to the move free and I'm going to back up. I'm just zooming out with my mouse and I'm using the right mouse button and dragging to sort of look around and see. So I can move around even though my benchmark is only 25%. And I can navigate and I can zoom in on things and it's not really running that bad actually. So the next thing I'm going to do is just apply a material really quickly and you'll see that as I hover my mouse, this whole yellow material gets highlighted. So I'm going to click on it and then I'm just going to go to various 3D grass and select this clean cut grass right here. That's a pretty normal grass texture that I use. It's a 3D grass texture, so it's not flat. It actually has dimension and it loaded up just fine, even though it's applied over a really wide area. And you can see that you can see the sort of like texture of the grass down here. So hopefully that loads up for you. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just check on this checkbox here, go into my content library and click on the nature. And then I'm going to go place. And that's going to bring up all of the trees. It'll by default start with the broadleaf trees. And I'm just going to use this search panel up here to type in linden and pick the first one that comes up. And then I'm going to go down here to mass placement and just increase this to like 35 objects. And now I'm going to click here and do an endpoint over here. And you can see now I have 35 trees in a row. I'm going to randomize their direction, randomize their spacing, and randomize their offset. So now I just have a whole bunch of trees all over the place, and that's fine. I just want to see how Lumion handles having trees in this file. So I'm just going to use those handles to sort of move the trees around. And when I'm done, I'm going to confirm that. And now I'll go back to my selection arrow, and I can still move around and I can still navigate even with 35 trees in the model. So that should be fine, because as you're creating your views, you're probably only going to populate targeted towards the view that you're creating. So you don't need to worry about populating this entire space. You're just going to be focused on the views that you're creating. So now I'm going to go over here to this little photo button over here, and let's see how long it would take me to render an image. So this is the sort of default setting. You get like a sunny sky with a bit of clouds in it. And I am just going to lift up. I'm using Q to raise my camera. And let's see. I'm going to take a view over here. And to set the view, I'm going to store it in my camera slot here. And I'm going to add a couple effects. So let's add sun, and then go back and go to effects, and let's add shadow. And let's go back and add skylight. Okay. So for sun, I'm just going to use these sliders to adjust the sun angle so that it's a little bit lower. And then I'm going to go back and go into my shadows and use these sliders to increase those. Change this to exterior, and I'm going to turn on my soft shadows. And then I'll go to my skylight, and I'm going to just leave it at normal like this. And let me see, I'm going to add a real sky. So I'm going to go to clear and then just use this one. And I'm going to move it around. You see it changes the shadows. I'm gonna change it so that it's in line with the sun. Okay, so the sun is doing that somewhat. And I'm just gonna use this arrow to move the effect down below the sun. Okay, now the sun is taking precedence, but I still have the realistic sky. All right, that's good enough for now. I just want to see how Lumion reacts to a few effects in this panel. So now I'm just going to hit render, and I'm going to select this desktop, which is not the smallest version, but not the largest either. And I'm just going to hit that, and it'll ask you to select a place to save it. So I'm going to do, in my Arrowdale Park files, I'm going to start a new folder called graphics. In graphics, I'm going to make a folder called renders. And in renders, I'm going to make a folder with today's date, 22/07/05. And in that file, I'm going to name this render test 1920px and save it out. And now Lumion is going to calculate this, and it's going to pop up with a render screen, and it should give you a bit of an estimate as to how long it's going to take to render it out. So we have 16 samples, and it looks like it's going fairly quickly. It says that it's going to take me 39 more seconds, so that's a bit less than a minute to render out this view. Let's see if it actually does it. Okay, so that took 48 seconds to complete that rendering. And that is in this file, which has 35 trees in it, some sun and shadow effects, a skylight, and some real skies. So if you're able to get to this stage and you're able to render out a test image like very basic like this without too many issues, then I think you should be just fine to use Lumion for this assignment.